It was really developed through a grant from the National Science Foundation, and it was one of 5 programs that were funded from the National Science Foundation at the high school level. It was only 4, I can't remember quite. We first implemented it here at Newton South and at Newton North simultaneously in 2002-2003. It was probably one of the first initiatives that the 2 schools kind of really did together in terms of mathematics anyway. What is the difference then if it looks the same in terms of curriculum and other pieces? Well, you've got the textbook in front of you, and as you're looking through that, you can see, I think, some differences. It doesn't look like a traditional textbook that you may have had in high school. It's geared around activities that students complete in collaborative groups. It's them working through the mathematics as opposed to myself, Mr. Rooney, or Ms. Hollingsworth standing up here and giving a bunch of notes on the board. It's really about the students doing the mathematics.
It may involve some source of data, as is the case here. It may involve some kind of activity that's done using some sort of technology, whether graphing calculator or spreadsheet, or it may involve some kind of just purely thought exploration. So students get an idea of modeling, which is also an important piece of SIMMS, is how you use the math to model what's going on in the real world.
Might make a scatter plot using the graphing calculator. They might make a scatter plot by hand. It just depends on what we're needing at the time. This is a very technology-based program. They become very agile with the graphing calculator for recording data, analyzing data, not so much for doing their times tables, which is great. It just becomes a tool that helps with more complicated problems. Then we have assignment problems. And I just want you to look on page 354 and 355. Those are 2 assignment problems. So for instance, a student might get to do 1-1 and 1-2 for their homework. Now that doesn't, it's so different sounding from regular math, where you do, 15 to 40 odds. This is something that will involve reading. It has different pieces to it. They build on each other. And that's what the homework can look like. And they go through this slowly and carefully, but it's deep. It's deep.
It starts off easy. We get to know the material we're working with. 2.2, we start to try and use what we've learned in 2.1 to maybe apply that to a new formula, and then I think writing the own formula and intuitively coming up with a formula is definitely part of the homework. And then 2.3 would be taking that to the next level. And oftentimes, this is my personal experience, I struggle with the homework. It's tough. It's really hard coming home with these concepts, but it's just sitting down, reading, I can get through it. And I'm very confident coming in with questions the next day that all my questions will be answered, and by the end of the next class, I'm good. I'm really good.
In SIMMS, you're taught to slow down in the sense that you don't move on to the next point until you've understood the first point. You go in depth, you read it, you have to really understand it, and I think that's something that takes a little bit of time to get, but that's sort of what the class is all about.
So am I correct in thinking that SIMMS is meant for kids who are stronger in English and the humanities? Is that the way of thinking about it or not?
It's, there are students in SIMMS who do have those strengths, but I can't say that it's maybe some of you can just say briefly about yourself in SIMMS and how you describe. Stephen has excellent math, very strong math skills, was in accelerated in middle school, very strong math skills, and we have some Stephens, not a lot of Stephens. It's very special to us. But Stephen is an example of a SIMMS student. Ariel?
I'm Ariel, and I think very artistically, creatively. I'm more strong sort of in the arts, and this math class has really helped me with this because it does give a really creative and original way of thinking and very hands-on, which is really the way that I like to do problems and solve problems. So it's definitely very beneficial in the past 4 years that I've
I'd say there are definitely some people who are really strong in sciences. There are people who are, as Stephen definitely is, really strong in math skills, and it's just a complete range, in my opinion.
Hi, I'm Mike. I'm actually, like you were saying, how you thought that it was mostly probably people who are good at English. I'm not the best English student, but like Ariel, I think more artistically, but instead of the visual arts, it's more visualized. So I like to think of things more in terms of the mathematical side of art and in terms of music. So that's why SIMMS is kind of different.
To answer your question, I think it's for everybody. I don't think that being good at, or like being, you know, what other classes might say good at math, I don't think that that would make you any less fit to be in a SIMMS class. I think that maybe the SIMMS curriculum especially helps the kids who in other classes might not be doing as well, but I think that it helps the kids who would be doing wonderfully in other classes just as much.
I think SIMMS is like one of the most diverse classes.
Yeah.
Definitely
Yeah.
one of the most diverse
Yeah.
classes I'm in, just in terms of like what different classes people are taking,
Yeah.
what sort of social groups people are part of, and what is like so exciting about it is that it's the only class that I feel like is a community.
Yeah.
And I mean, people have been talking a lot about how their confidence increased in this class. That was certainly the case for me. Like I thought I was the worst person at math before I came to this class. I really did poorly my sophomore year and was put into curriculum 2 and fought my way into this class and was so happy and just like I think people are much more able to take on harder level math because it doesn't feel like, oh, if I don't get this right away, I'm not going to do well in this test and I'm not going to get these numbers in, I'm not going to go to college. It's like we can slow down and all of us together can take things one at a time.
A lot of the freshmen struggle at first with some of the expectations of SIMMS. They're not used to that style of learning, that the extent to which they're asked to take on responsibility. But it is interesting to see how much evolution there is over the course of the year.
We were saying that before, like if my son or daughter doesn't like this certain aspect that you're talking about in SIMMS, like sometimes we talk about how we go like slowly and to make sure everybody understands that, and some people are like, oh well, my son or daughter likes to go really fast, but sometimes for the kid who their main interests aren't the interests of SIMMS, like SIMMS is the best for them because these are skills that you really do need, and
That's
they
why
can
it is.
and they help you in every facet of your life.
Looking at different programs, we were looking to adopt something for the Newton High Schools. We visited a school in Vermont where the entire math curriculum was SIMMS. Every student did SIMMS. And we sat and observed a senior class, and I can't remember who asked, but one of us said, so asked the student, so you took, you know, when you were younger, you took regular math, and you took this, and, you know, which one do you prefer? And they're like, oh, the regular one, this is so much harder, you have to think. And then I said, well, let me ask you in a different way. If you had children, what would you want your children to take? They said, oh, SIMMS, absolutely SIMMS. Which struck me. It's not, the thinking is not always easy. It really, you know, it's hard. It's hard to think the way they think in SIMMS. But they're getting very fit. They are developing these thinking muscles that, and it's not always pleasant on the way to developing that fitness. It's hard work.
So I feel like the SIMMS material, the SIMMS approach between the groups and the textbook itself supports it supports quantitative reasoning, which is thinking about issues, problems that arise, and how can you start thinking about them mathematically, and not, okay, we'll jump right into the formula, what's the slope, what's the y-intercept, but what's the relationship between these two? Does it make sense to think of it as some kind of linear relationship? Okay, well, how can we now formalize that so that we can be a little more abstract and general about it? But it's a much more logical way of approaching it. There's a problem, there's a solution, let's think about how we can generalize that solution. And it's not that other math textbooks don't do it, it's just that the thrust is clearer here, much clearer, and much more rooted in that program.
It has alleviated any kind of math anxiety at home. We've never had any math anxiety. And he's been getting his acceptances to college, and he did just fine on the, he took the ACT, but he did fine. And I am here solely because I just wanted to let other parents know that it's worked out really well for us.
The thing that really stands out that I've seen in the last 4 years is we as parents usually think of math as linear, and even I know some of us as adults say, well, I'm not really very good at math either. And I think that happens a lot with girls, not only girls, but they do experience that. When they come to SIMMS, it's a much more community atmosphere where they can problem solve in groups. When my experience as a math student, particularly in high school, is that the teacher stands up at the front of the class, these are the problems, this is the lecture, go home, do your homework, period, end of period. These kids sit in small groups and they work the problems out. One kid might be stronger in this problem, and another kid another problem. It's really friendly, community-oriented, and they all leave feeling like they do math well. It helps them in their self-esteem so they can go tackle chemistry or physics or whatever.
The emphasize is reading, but also along with the problem-based approach. And I feel like, for example, I've definitely noticed that I can, if I have a question on my math homework, I'll go ask some kid who's in the calculus course, and he can do the problem, but will have no idea how to explain it to me. Whereas all the other SIMMS kids can definitely explain it, and that's partly the reading, but also partly, I think, through that problem-based approach. And I've definitely seen that can be applied across anything.
Why SIMMS is super effective is because the stuff that we're learning has a point, and then we're not just learning math because that's part of the curriculum. I've always struggled with math because I've never understood, when will I use this? I'm an English kid, I'm not going to use math ever. But if you even take a look at the textbook, each module is related to science. It's related to the real world. It has a purpose. And although we're learning math, we're also learning why does math matter? Which is kind of a question I think teachers kind of maybe take for granted in math classes. Because it's just numbers, but here it has real motivation.
It's because of that, how other students ask questions and everyone's learning from each other, that at the end of a unit in SIMMS, you couldn't, choose a few people that understood the unit more than anyone else. Whereas, in other math classes, these people get A's and these people get S, and then you're on to the next unit.
And then there's a test and that's it.
Yeah.
What's important too is that all of us keep talking about how slowly we go and how we keep reading things over. But when we finish, we've done the same math as everybody else.
Yeah.
And it's some amazing time warp. But how does that work? But that just kind of speaks, I guess, to how much we want to learn and how much we enjoy. So that maybe they're going faster technically, but they're skipping. And it's not only have we done the same units, but we actually remember and understand them.
If you're in a group, it's can you help me understand? I don't get this one. And then, maybe for the person who's really good at applying the formula doesn't understand, what this looks like. What does this graph actually mean? Why does this match up the way it does? For a more visual person, then they can explain it to them. It's so much more collective. And it's not about who finishes first, and as a student starting out freshman year, at first, I didn't know if I liked SIMMS. I wasn't sure. I wanted to know, am I doing this right? Miss Hollingsworth, tell me, am I right? Is this right? And she would say, you have to go back and look and do it again. And if you need me to tell you it's right, then I'm not going to, because you should know, and you should be able to tell. And then by the end, I would say, I'm confident that this is right, and she would go, that's true, it is. But I figured it out for myself, or with my group, and I think that's so much more satisfying than just, necessarily, finishing first or being the best at math in the class. That's not what it's about. And so why SIMMS? It's a community, it's great, you learn so much, and it honestly is the best decision I've made at South, coming in as a freshman taking this class.